When you see my face, you smile. Have you been listening all the while?
Incoming! Clothes are incoming!
No, coming now!
Oh, where am I?
You washed up.
Sorry?
Welcome to the island of discarded women, my friend.
I used to be somebody. Are you that woman on the radio?
Your island job is peladora de papas.
Sorry, what?
Potato peeler, 87% match for your skills.
Okay, that's not... Anyway, what is the second best match then?
Host of the Island Podcast.
Are you kidding me? No, see, that's me. That's perfect for me. That's the...
I love shining with you.
Oh, Mary, I'm so excited about our rally tonight. It's going to be thrilling having all of us together on the island, and we're going to be working to get out the vote. And Mary, hello. Hello.
My name is Mary.
There she goes.
For English,
Yeah.
say one.
Yeah.
Para español.
There you are, our trusty virtual assistant. Now, Mary, I was talking about our rally tonight, the rally that our WW Shush movement put together.
I
2
could
weeks-
not find WW Shush.
No.
Please check your spelling and try again.
Yeah, it's an acronym, Mary. We've gone through this before. It stands for When Women Show Up, Shit Happens. WW Shush, right?
Did you mean Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte?
No.
The 1964 psychological horror film starring Betty Davis?
No, Mary, I did not mean that. Though I tell you, this election sure feels like a psychological horror film sometimes, doesn't it?
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, that's all right. It just doesn't matter. It does not matter how smart, how trained, how accomplished. She's a woman.
Okay,
right?
I found She's a Woman by the Beatles.
No.
From Apple
No,
Music.
that's not what I meant, Mary. That's not what I meant.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
She Acts Like a Woman Should by Marilyn Monroe.
No, Mary, I'm not looking for a song, please.
Okay, Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain.
Mary, stop. Hello, Mary. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, there she
My
is.
name is Mary.
Okay, anyway, my point was, with Kamala at the top of the ticket, we are dealing with a woman thing. And don't, please don't search for more songs, please.
What would you like me to search?
Oh, okay. Well, just listen to me for a second.
Okay, a second is now over.
Oh, jeez.
Would you like me to continue listening?
Yes, please. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. So there's this Lincoln Project ad.
Okay, I found Abraham Lincoln.
No.
The
That's
16th
not, no.
president.
Right. Anyway, it's about endorsing Kamala Harris. And at one point, after listing all her amazing qualities, the narrator, who is actor Sam Elliott with his big, deep voice, he says to those who may be reluctant, and if it's a woman thing, get over it. And that's all it is, right? Right? If it's a woman thing, get over it. Mary, did you know that 59 countries around the globe have had or have now women leading their countries? I mean, they are presidents, they are prime ministers, whatever the titles are, they are their leaders. And some of those countries have had multiple female leaders. And 9 of the current female leaders are their country's firsts. They are kicking our freaking butts when it comes to this woman thing.
Okay, I found It's a Woman Thing by Trace Adkins.
No, please don't play that one. That song is not helpful.
Okay, is there a way I can be helpful?
Oh, well, that's a lovely thing to ask, Mary. Okay, just tell me there's hope. I mean, I know we have to work for it. We really, really have to work for it. But just tell me there's hope, please. Really?
Hope
Yeah?
is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes.
Yeah.
Hope, to expect with confidence.
Okay.
To cherish a desire with anticipation.
Okay. I am going to expect with confidence and cherish a desire with tons of anticipation for us to put this woman in the White House. And I am going to get everyone I know to show up, because when women show up, shit happens, right? WW Shush, WW Shush, WW Shush, WW Shush, yes, WW Shush.
Can you feel it rising? Shooting like a star across the sky, painting the horizon with every hope and dream that's been denied. I'm sick of all of the heartbreak, the double standards and the shame. I'm who I am and it's okay. It's time for a change. Let's bring back the joy, bring it back, take my hand. Let's fight until we can. It's time that they hear our voice. Drown out the noise, drown it out, every sound. Stand up and be proud. Hate won't keep us down. Let's bring it back, bring it back, hey, let's bring it back, bring it back. Let's bring back the joy, let's bring it back, bring it back. Oh, let's bring it back, bring it back. Let's bring back the joy. We're on the verge of something bigger than we realize. History is watching. We can't afford to lose. Let's get this right. I'm sick of all of the heartbreak, the double standards and the shame. I'm who I am and it's okay. It's time for a change. Let's bring back the joy. Bring it back. Take my hand. Oh, let's fight until we can. It's time that they hear our voice. Drown out the noise.
Drown it out, every sound.
Yeah, stand up and be proud. Hate won't keep us down. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. Come on. Hey, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring back the joy. Let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Oh, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Can you help us sing this? Come on, break real quick. Come on. Let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Let's bring back the joy. Let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
I hear ya. Yeah, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Come on, everybody together one more time. Let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring back the joy. Bring it back.
Bring it back.
That sound good. Hey, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Let's bring back the joy.
Thank you, Kennadi Hurst. And our lovely backup singers. And Tim Levy. Thank you so much, so powerful. Okay, Tim, you wrote this song for us for tonight.
I did.
This song was written for us, yes. I asked him what was coming up for him and this whole thing, and it's the bringing up the joy, let's do it. Then I reached out to Kennadi, and she said yes, and here we are. Now, some of you have been on our show before. You've actually met Tim Levy without knowing it. At least you've heard him. 2 of his songs have been on our show before. One, a very powerful song called We Are One, was performed by Ivory Doublet on our February 2022 show. That's episode 22. And Tim's Beautiful Spread Love was sung by Yummy Love just this past April. That's episode 38. And do you only write songs for women?
Exclusively, yep.
Exclusively, okay. We love allies like that, don't we? And who knows, there might be more Tim Levy songs on our show. And Kennadi, you grew up singing with your family.
Yes.
Yes, the Hurst
I did.
Family Experience, it's
Yes,
called. Yeah.
mom, dad, brother, myself.
And you're still singing together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that's just 1/4 of the group? I mean, the roof would just be like, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you grew up as a theater kid, too.
I did.
Yeah.
Whole high school career was full of musical theater, St. Paul Conservatory for Performing Artists.
Oh, yes. I always called
Yeah.
that the SB.
Yes, we'll
It's like
take it.
so many
We'll take it.
S in pieces. Tim and Kennadi will be back for another song. So, it's election day in 2008, and Obama is running the first time. And I have signed up to door knock for the campaign here in Minnesota. Now, I had door knocked on Election Day before, and I had found it really empowering and also a great way to not stay home and fret, right, waiting for returns. And the campaign was really stressing the need for volunteers. They didn't want anyone who might be interested in voting to not vote because maybe they didn't know where their polling place was or the hours of the polls. So I signed up for a Minneapolis campaign headquarters, and I get paired up with a lovely, like-minded, peer-aged woman, and we go off with our turf maps. And we go to an area of South Minneapolis that's a mix of single-family homes and duplexes and small apartment buildings. It's also very diverse, which is terrific. And we decided to split up and cover the odd and even sides of the streets separately. And I head towards an address on my list, which is located in a group of duplexes. And out front, there's a bunch of little kids, okay? They're running around and they're playing in the leaves. I think they're actually supposed to be raking the leaves, but they're kind of playing in them even more. And I pass the kids, and I go to a door on my list, and an older woman answers, and she tells me, yes, she's definitely going to vote, but she has to wait till her daughter gets home from work. Great, I tell her, great. I remind her where the polling place is and that the polls are open till 8. And as I'm walking away, one of the little kids playing out front, maybe 6 years old, he comes running up to me, and he goes, hey, that's my house. What are you doing at my house? And I said, well, it's election day, and we're going door to door to make sure everyone is getting out and voting. And he says, you mean for Barack Obama? And I said, well, I personally would love them to vote for Barack Obama, but mainly we just want to make sure that they're voting. And at that point, an older kid in the group, he steps up and he says to the little kid, you know, you look like Obama. And the little kid stops. Completely freezes with this look on his face like he is not sure whether this is a compliment or not. Now, sensing this awkwardness, I'm right there, and searching for a way to help diffuse it, I decide to seize on the little kid's earlier enthusiasm. And so I say, you know what? You do kind of look like Obama. And this huge smile comes across his face. And he goes, I do? I do? I go, yeah, you really do. And then another kid runs up, do I look like Obama? I go, yeah, you do too. And then a little girl runs up, how about me? Do I look like Obama? And I go, yeah, you do too. You all look like Obama. And at that point, this big, huge cheer comes up with all the little kids. And as I'm starting to walk away, I hear the older kid, who happened to be the white kid in the group, say, I told you so. That's what I told you. But they didn't hear him because the cheer had evolved into a chant. We look like Obama, we look like Obama, we look like Obama. And as I am walking away to the sidewalk, incredibly moved by this experience, I realize that is representation matters. That's it, right there. Putting myself in their place for this election. My chant would be, I'm the same gender as Kamala. 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 Yay! After the closing night of the Democratic National Convention, the DNC in Chicago, you've all seen the iconic photo that came out, right? So Kamala Harris is up on stage speaking, giving her acceptance speech. And in the foreground, you see the back of one of her grandnieces with the braids, right? And she's looking up at her Aunt Kamala, who has just been officially nominated to be the Democratic presidential candidate of the United States. That photo is representation matters, that photo. Zippy Laske, you have 2 daughters. And I was asking you about the messages that you think they are getting right now with this woman at the top of the ticket, or not getting, and the messages that maybe you were hoping that they're taking from this. And this beautiful song is Zippy's response. Here you go, Zippy Laske.
It's 6
exciting, honey. Time is turning, we're all running, trying to keep up, but some move faster than the flock. It's complicated, darling. Some are ready for the race, some run the other way, and some just stay the same. All that I can say is keep looking ahead. Take a hand and take a step, and leave no one behind. If quitting is the crime, let's take their hands and walk straight through that finish line. If love is all we really want, then love is what we'll give. We must stand hand in hand to win. I have visions of tomorrow where anyone can be anything, colorful and whimsical, endless possibilities. The daughters of the dreamers standing firm in all their worth. The dream of dreams, queen of queens, leaders of the world. All that I can say is keep looking ahead. Take a hand and take a step, and leave no one behind. If quitting is the crime, let's take their hands and walk straight through that finish line. If love is all we really want, then love is what we'll give. We must stand hand in hand to win. I will listen and I'll ask questions with the best of intentions. We'll keep evolving by problem solving till we're heading in the same direction. We'll leave no one behind. If quitting is the crime, let's take their hands and walk straight through that finish line. If love is all we really want, then love is what we'll give. We must stand hand in hand to win. It's all we really want, so love is what we'll give. We must stand hand in hand to win. Thank you.
Zippy Laske, thank you so much. So beautiful, so beautiful. So while we're all fixated on this presidential race, state legislatures across the country are drafting bill after bill after bill that would secure anti-LGBTQ legislation into law in their next legislative sessions. So the down ballot races count, right? The state legislative races count. Here's an example, is a portion of the Arizona Senate Bill 1166 that is advancing in their next legislative session and labeled by the ACLU as a, quote, forced outing in schools issue.
A public school must notify a student's parents not later than 5 school days after the first time that an employee or independent contractor of the public school knowingly addresses, identifies, or refers to the student by either of the following. 1. A pronoun that differs from the pronoun that aligns with the student's biological sex. Number 2. A first name other than the first or middle name that is listed on the student's official school records.
And on it goes from there. Missouri, New Hampshire, Ohio, North Carolina, and Virginia have similar forced outing in schools bills on the docket for next legislative session. Vote them out. The good news is that 13 states have introduced similar bills, and those bills were defeated. And one of those 13 states was Minnesota. Vote them in.
All you queer kids, you're all right with me. all you queer kids, you're all right with me because we love you. We're so lucky because of you. Yeah, we love you. We're so lucky because of you. All the trans kids, you're all right with me. All the trans kids, you're all right with me because we love you. We're so lucky because of you. Here's a secret I tell you right now. We are all just trying to figure this out. It takes us a while to settle into our skin. No matter who we are, the body we are in. All the gay kids, you're all right with me. All the gay kids, you're all right with me because we love you. We're so lucky because of you. Yeah, we love you. We're so lucky because of you. It's hard to grow up, no matter who you are. And you, my darling, are a shining star. Even if I don't always understand it, yeah, I'm your mom, and I love you damn well. Yeah, you're so brave, baby, you're so brave, even when you're not. You're my kiddo, and I like you a lot. Hey, look at you, baby, look at you. I'm so proud of you. Hey, look at you, baby, look at you. I'm so proud of you. Oh, you're shining, you're shining, shining. You're shining, shining.
Rachel Kurtz. You're all right with me, Rachel. You're all right with us. So this song was released in 2022.
Yep.
And how has your life been? Because you were telling me some stories. How has your life been since you released this song?
Well, it's been really, really sweet. Like, I wrote it for my kids and my friends' kids. And when I wrote it, my daughter was like, why wouldn't they be all right with you? And I was like, right, hey, we're in a different time. But it is really, really sweet. And it has ended up happening when I sing it in bars and stuff, or in churches or whatever. Like, adults come up to me and they're like, and when I released it, and there's a really cute music video on YouTube. Like,
There is.
Adults come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I wish you were my mom 30 years ago when I came out. And like, literally adults come up to me crying and they're like, gosh, I just wish my parents could have showed up. And there's so many parents, obviously, that have rejected their kids, but there is so many parents that just say, I'm in. We don't have to have all it
Right.
figured out. Like, it's just okay. And as a queer person myself,
Yeah.
like, it's just been fascinating to see what these kids are living through and what they're not living through
Right.
compared to, and even me coming out later in life. Like, it just, I don't have the same experience as people in the 90s and the 2000s. And yeah.
Well, and all these bills and all this, talking about messages that they're getting.
Yes.
You know, that this is like, no, you don't count at all.
Yeah.
You were telling me you just had an experience in Minot, North Dakota. You were speaking.
Yeah. I just did a thing with a Lutheran campus ministry
Yeah,
at Minot State.
Yeah.
And they ended up putting a billboard up, unbeknownst to me, that said, Rachel Kurtz, queer Christian,
concert and Q&A, and I started getting emails and like random texts from people that I've never met. And so I've never felt like unsafe going to something, but that was just a lot more aggressive. And these two young men were at the concert, and
Oh, really?
And I got
Who had written you?
Oh, I think that I definitely think so. But I didn't know for sure,
Yeah.
but they were clearly not with the crew, and the one guy was real surly and looking angry and kept looking at the clock, and I just thought, how is it that we're living in a time where I have to be really nervous about why they're here? And then we did the Q&A, and then, of course, they were definitely there to go, how could you possibly claim that you're both things? You can't be both. And I'm like, well,
You mean a
turns out I
queer
am.
and a Christian.
Oh, yeah. So,
And
yeah.
you were saying that you talked to the administration and they actually alerted the
Oh
police.
yeah. They kept an eye on online chatter and what was going on. But we just needed to make sure that there wasn't going to be any. They just made sure that everybody was safe and sound, and it turned out great.
Rachel will be back. Thank you so much, Rachel. I want to talk now to the groups that are here with their action info tables, groups in the back of the room. I can kind of see you, but I know you're back there. I feel your presence. So I asked them to give me a sample of what they're focusing on. So ERA Minnesota, what are you guys focusing on between now and the election?
Hi, Sue. Thanks so much.
Hi.
And thanks so much for all your advocacy and support of the Equal Rights Amendment. Like everybody else, ERA Minnesota is focusing on the election.
Yes.
It's critically important that we elect candidates that support the Equal Rights Amendment so that we can get it passed in 2025 and get it on the Minnesota State Constitution.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
We are currently certifying candidates that are ERA certified. We do that with our national partner, ERA Coalition. And so
Vote for those people.
Vote for those people. We're looking for ERA champions, people that are going to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Ask your candidates that are running, are they supportive? And will they do it? And then get out and vote.
Yeah.
Get your neighbors out to vote. Check on everybody in other states. Get them out to vote as well.
Yeah, get them out to vote as well.
New York State is the only state currently with an ERA on the ballot.
Yes, in November, yes.
Election, 9 other states have reproductive rights bills on their ballots this election. We want Minnesota to have those in 2025. And then all of you can vote on it. So
there you go.
Let's get it done.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kate. Women's March Minnesota. Women's March Minnesota. Step up to the mic.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Our focus is, folks may have known, the Women's March was born out of the results of the election of 2016.
Yes.
We met on the streets. How many were there?
Hundreds
at the Women's
of thousands.
March?
Yes, hundreds of thousands.
Because we felt unseen, unheard. And then we unified, we worked hard, and we changed the results of 2020.
Yes, we
And
did. Yes, we
Woo!
did.
Yeah. We thought our job was done. We're still working.
Yeah.
So that's what we're really focused on. For folks in the room, we have postcards that you can send to friends, loved ones, enemies, I don't care who. Remind them to vote, maybe help them if you're not sure what they're going to decide. We also have a checklist of things to do to prepare for the election and to help get out the vote. Includes a list of elections in Minnesota that are more contentious and could use help with door knocking, postcarding, phone calling, and really just talk to the people you know, person to person. I think that makes the most difference. So thank you all, Sue, everyone up there for your support, and thank you, all of you, for your support.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. And Unrestrict Minnesota and Gender Justice.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Unrestrict Minnesota was founded in 2019 when Gender Justice filed a lawsuit challenging all of Minnesota's restrictions on abortion, which most people didn't know existed. Maybe some of you didn't know we had like 10 laws in the way of people getting abortions. Yeah. We won that lawsuit 3 weeks after Dobbs came down and got involved in the elections in 2022, delivered our first ever pro-reproductive freedom majorities in the legislature, and then repealed all those laws off of our books for good so that they cannot come back. Yes. And so the reason this election is so important is because we have to send everyone who took those hard votes in 2023 back.
Yes.
So they know we are with them and we are behind them.
Vote them in.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. Please visit those tables at the back of the room if you haven't before the show. So equality is on the ballot, yes, across the country in many ways. And the fact that we still don't have a national ERA is astonishing, right? So for a little refresher of the history of the ERA, here is an updated version of a song that Jaspar Lepak and I wrote for an earlier show. The Ballad of the ERA, the 2024 edition.
ERA, it's coming for ya, that ERA.
In 1923, the Equal Rights Amendment was first introduced to Congress by Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman. Both were suffragists. They had just gained the vote 3 years prior with the successful 19th Amendment and believed the next step towards full equality for women and men meant passing the ERA. But it didn't happen because everyone was frightened about what equal rights really meant.
The ERA, it's so scary, that ERA.
So they tried again in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s too. But it went down every time since no one could agree as to what exactly to do with the ERA. Aren't equal rights in the Constitution, the 14th Amendment? Don't women need special provisions because they're women? Are we really equal?
The ERA, are we sure we need it? That ERA.
The second wave came in the 70s with stars like Steinem, Friedan, and Chisholm. In 72, it passed both houses and was sent to the states for ratification. They needed 38 states to approve, but by the deadline, just 35 were a lock. The only one happy was Phyllis Schlafly, who had convinced others to block the ERA against their own best interests. While she traveled around the country telling women to stay home and raise their children, her husband stayed home and raised their children. What was she afraid of? Herself?
The ERA, that's too much freedom, the ERA.
In 77, Rosalind Carter said yes with Betty Ford and Coretta Scott King too. And President Jimmy signed a bill to extend the deadline till 82 for ratifying the ERA. There was International Women's Year, the National Women's Conference, Women's Equality Day. Proclamations were everywhere. But ratification? Still elusive.
The ERA, why is this so hard? That ERA.
Since then, tireless advocates like our own Betty Folliard had kept the pressure mounting. In 2020, Virginia became the 38th state. But the archivist said he would not be counting the ERA as the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. Other states have since rescinded, he said, even though that's not constitutional. Then in 2023, Colleen Joy Shogan was sworn in as the first female archivist. She wouldn't publish it either. Said it wasn't her job. But publishing shit that's been ratified is exactly her job. So still, it sits.
The ERA, I could have sworn we passed it, that ERA.
Across the country, many states are going solo, doing their own thing. In 2024, the Minnesota House said yes, but the Senate GOPs chose stalling. The authors will try again in the next session if the trifecta can prevail by choosing certified candidates across the state who promise to propel the ERA into the Minnesota Constitution. We just got to vote them in, people, so they can pass the dang thing, giving rights that have been too elusive, too long for too many.
All persons shall be guaranteed equal rights under the laws of the state. The state shall not discriminate against any person in intent or effect on account of race, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, or sex, including but not limited to pregnancy, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive freedom, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation.
The ERA, because we're equal, that ERA.
But this ballot can't end without heaping praise on the tireless folks of New York State. They succeeded in getting their ERA on the ballot for the November 5th election date. Known as Proposal 1, it will support rights for many without further delay, giving fuel to other states to keep pushing forward so all 50 can eventually say, "We passed the ERA."
The ERA, the time is now for the ERA.
Hey, the gender pay gap just widened for the first time in 20 years.
ERA, damn, we need this, that ERA.
Rosalind Carter and Betty Ford in the 70s, think about it.
ERA, it's so bipartisan, that
We
ERA.
can't let New York stand alone, can we?
The ERA, let's make it national, that ERA.
It's just equality for everyone.
The ERA, it's coming for ya, that ERA.
Yeehaw! Thank you, Jaspar. Thank you, Rachel, for jumping in. All right, so regarding, I'm going to take you back for a minute, regarding the altercation that took place at Arlington Cemetery on August 26th between the Trump campaign and an Arlington Cemetery staffer, right? The staffer, fearing retaliation, decided not to press charges against the Trump camp after she tried to enforce the proper rules of the cemetery and was physically forced to relent. The Trump spokesperson said about the altercation that the staffer was clearly suffering from a mental health episode. Women throughout history have been committed to institutions and asylums for being overly assertive, too independent, not passive enough to their husbands, or just plain young and pregnant. They must be crazy, right? Crazy. The solution was to tame them, control them, and literally butcher them into submission. As Kamala Harris might say, same old tired playbook. Next question, please. And they wonder why we choose the bear.
There's nothing as dangerous as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as dangerous. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself. She stands up, her back held straight, a lioness in her gaze. Her pride is gathered round her thighs. Her daughter sees herself in her mama's eyes. Velvet tongue and upturned lip, her children clinging at her hip. She plays her songs as incantations, calling forth their own creations. Dangerous as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as powerful. There's nothing as dangerous as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself. Oh, she licks her chops, tastes the thunder, rain-soaked dreams and childhood wonder. Block pathways torn asunder. She's defeated but won't surrender. Tastes of fruit, kingdom branches, lesson learned, her second chances. Prowess beckons, invites romances. They are clutching at her haunches. Dangerous as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as dangerous, powerful as a woman who knows herself. Is her daughter the diamond? Proof of her status, her Her young son she adores with such hope and such passion. They are glorious. They are glorious. Her children glorious. They are glorious. Dangerous. Powerful as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing is dangerous. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself.
Rachel Kurtz, thank you. Thank you so much. Jasper's at the piano now. She has this beautiful song that's very personal called Arizona. And tell us what the impetus was to write this song, Jaspar.
So back in April, the Arizona Supreme Court decided to uphold an 1864 abortion ban.
1864. Think about it.
And I grew up in Arizona.
Yeah.
I lived there till I was 18, and I love the desert. I felt nurtured by that landscape. I felt like Arizona was kind of a mother to me.
Yeah.
Taught me how to thrive in harsh landscapes, be resilient,
yes.
and find the beauty in
yes.
the open spaces. And in my adult life, I've lived in states where abortion access has been available to me, and the reproductive health care has been expanded, like state of Washington, state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
So this just really, when that happened, I felt really gutted. It felt really personal. I felt a sense of betrayal. And so I started writing this song.
And a month after the Supreme Court of Arizona upheld that 1864 law, the legislature, the Republican-led legislature, overturned it.
Yeah.
So there's hope. It was even too much for them. It was too draconian. And now, protecting abortion will be on the ballot in Arizona in the November election. Yes. Protecting abortion. Yes, yes. So here now is Jaspar Lepak in Arizona.
Arizona, I am your precious daughter. I come with prayers to offer. Stand up and fight for me. Arizona, they have ripped away my freedom. They say God and life the reason. They don't care that I'm divine. Arizona, I am begging you to see me. Embrace me and believe me. Let my body be my own. Arizona, Arizona, Arizona. Arizona, all this talk of life beginning. Can't we talk about the living? Please protect us as we grow. Arizona, is my body worth so little? Am I really just a vessel with no value of my own? Arizona, come close to me and hold me. Protect me like I'm holy. I am the child that you raised. Arizona, Arizona, Arizona. Arizona, you were a fierce and fearless mother. I could never run for cover from the power of your son. Arizona, the raging of your thunder, the lightning storms, the wonder, the vivid colors of your sky. When it rains, it pours, and the washes feel like rivers. Won't you cry for me and fight for me until I too am free? Arizona, do not forsake your daughters and the gifts we have to offer, the lives we have to live. Arizona, put an end to all this madness. Stop pretending life is precious only when a life begins. Arizona, I need you more than ever. Cherish me and never let them take this choice from me. Arizona, 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 Arizona. stand up and fight for me.
These 10 states have constitutional amendments on their November 5th ballots for protecting abortion and reproductive freedom.
The Colorado Right to Abortion and Health Insurance Coverage Initiative.
The Nevada Right to Abortion Initiative.
The Missouri Right to Reproductive Freedom.
The Nebraska Right to Abortion Initiative.
The Maryland Reproductive Freedom Referendum.
The Montana Right to Abortion Initiative.
The Florida Amendment to limit government interference with abortion.
The New York State Equal Rights Amendment.
The South Dakota Freedom Amendment.
And the Arizona Abortion Access Act.
Arizona, I need you more than ever. Cherish me and never let them take this choice from me. Colorado, Nevada, Missouri, Nebraska, Maryland and Montana, Florida, New York, South Dakota, and Arizona. Stand up and fight for me.
Jaspar Lepak. Thank you so much, Jasper. Just beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. All right, so this quote was heard at a recent rally stated by a man wearing a red hat. And I will not do an impression, but this is a direct quote. I make this statement to the great women of our country. Women are poorer, less healthy, less safe, more stressed and depressed and unhappy than before. I will fix all of that and fast. And at long last, this national nightmare will end. It will end because I am your protector. I want to be your protector.
Way back when, in the beginning of time, man made the fire, then the wheel went from a horse to an automobile. He said, the world is mine. He took the oceans and the sky. He set the borders, built the walls. He won't stop till he owns it all. And here we are, standing on the brink of disaster. Enough is enough, is enough, is enough. I know the answer. Put a woman in charge. Put the women in charge. Time to put the women in charge. Put the women in charge. Time has come. We've got to turn this world around. Call the mothers, call the daughters. We need the sisters of mercy now. She'll be a hero, not a fool. She's got the power to change the rules. She's got something that men don't have. She is kind, understands. Oh, so let the ladies do what they were born to do. Oh, raise the vibration and make a better place for me and you. Put a woman in charge. Hey, put a woman in charge. Time to put a woman in charge. Oh, put the women in charge. Hallelujah. We're gonna feel the magic when the girls take over. put a woman in charge.
Thank you, Kennadi. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Rachel, Jaspar, Zippy. Thank you so much. Now, please welcome my guest for the conversation, Mary Beth Yarrow. Come on up, Mary Beth. Come on up, Mary Beth. Come on up. It's time. It's time.
May I say something to
Yes,
begin
you
with?
may. You may.
Woo.
I don't
Some
know,
years
May.
ago, when my son was out doing a Native American vision quest, he had Michael and Chris, husband, who were part of it. And at the way in which Native Americans make relations, I didn't want to be their mom, but I said, can I be your wow? So if you take mom and turn it over on its head, you become a wow.
Okay.
And I think this movement of women in charge could become wow
We're
to
wowing.
the wow
Okay.
degree.
Okay, we're wowing.
So
I'm
we're
wow.
wowing.
I'm in.
Woo-hoo.
I'm in.
Are
I'm
you
in.
in?
I'm in. Let's wow. Wow, 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 wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
Wow,
And
wow.
you don't have to be a woman with children or cats.
No.
You know?
No. I was going to get a T-shirt that said childless allergic to cat woman. And I thought, does that count? I guess that counts. What about us? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. It's so sweet to have you here.
Oh, my
We've
God.
actually, real quick, Mary Beth was going to be a guest on our show back in July of 2020.
Right.
And we were here at Crooners. We had just moved to Crooners in early 2020, and in March of 2020, you know what happened, right? But I had pre-planned all these guests, and you were going to be here in the summer, and you're like, yeah, I could do July. So that's how long we've been trying to find a new date, and we got one. And actually, there's more to talk about, really.
But it's such a perfect time.
Yes.
To be
Right.
here.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how moved I am by this show and by the work that you do. It's just wonderful, Sue.
Oh.
Just
Well,
wonderful.
thank you. Okay, good night, everybody. I guess that's it. What else? All right, I'm going to do a quick little bio. So you are originally from Willmar, Minnesota.
I am.
Yes. And you are a producer of social and political documentary films and television. You are the niece of Minnesota Senator Eugene McCarthy.
Yes.
You met Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary while working on your uncle's presidential campaign in 1968.
I did.
Your first documentary was The Willmar 8, about the 8 women bookkeepers and tellers who walked off the jobs at Citizen National Bank, right? Since then, you've produced television and films for HBO, NBC, CBS, the Lifetime Channel, PBS's American Masters, and Ireland's RTE. You are currently putting the final touches on a documentary about your uncle called Gene McCarthy, Alone in the Land of the Aardvarks.
This is true.
I've seen it. I've seen an early cut. It is absolutely stunning. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the conversation. So I want to start. So you grew up in Willmar. You're one of 6 girls.
I'm the oldest of 6. Yes.
Oldest of 6 girls. You said you grew up eager, hungry, and like a sponge.
I did, but not around a lot of politics.
Yeah.
Our family had more to do with sports and swimming and the lake, and my father was the first resident trained surgeon.
Yeah.
Gene's younger brother by 3 years, Dr. Austin McCarthy, to come to Willmar, and he was a very busy man.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a political activity, but we had a social consciousness, and we were taught to care about people and taught kindness.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't until 1968, and I had, alas, squandered 2 years of a very gracious college education and my father's hard work and money at the University of Colorado, and needed to rethink my trajectory.
Yes, your path.
Yes, exactly. And I was asked, actually, to rethink. And
Mary Beth, it's time to rethink.
And so I came back to Minnesota with the thought of going to the spring semester at the wonderful community college that they had in Willmar, and then entering the University of Minnesota, when that March 12th, Gene McCarthy upset the situation with the New Hampshire primary.
Right.
And
He won 42% of the vote, which was not the majority, but it was shocking. It was like,
Exactly.
wait, what? Yeah.
And so I said, oh, I say sometimes that it's actually, I've stolen this from Samuel Beckett, but
he won't mind.
But Beckett always said his ideas came by stubbing his toe on them. And this is true of the direction that my life has taken. So here was this Gene McCarthy stone that I stubbed my toe on. And instead of saying ouch and walking on, I usually pick up the stone and I look at it and I say, oh, maybe there's something interesting for me to do. So I called the St. Paul headquarters, and I was totally apolitical and unaware and unconscious, but I said maybe they could use me to stuff envelopes or knock on doors. And the Wisconsin primary was gearing up. And so I was immediately sent to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to begin working in the Wisconsin primary. Because I had the name McCarthy and because I am a fairly gregarious person, they thought that it would be a good thing to send me out to these small gatherings, because in that campaign, sometimes 8 women would get together in a living room and have tea.
Like coffee parties or tea parties.
Exactly.
Right.
And I would be invited to come, and they thought it was sort of very prestigious, but I always had to have someone from the campaign to come along and talk about the issues because I was inarticulate.
Well, or as you said to me, you said I was ill-informed.
Right.
I'm sure you were very articulate.
Thank you,
Easy
Sue.
for you to say.
I appreciate that.
But
yes.
maybe just ill-informed.
And so I was like a sponge. Yes, and I did listen, and by rote, became very clear about the war and what the war was doing to the Great Society, and could, after a very short time by rote, go and talk in some of these small gatherings and make some kind of sense. And it was clearly an education for me. I think I told you I was like Alice, sort of sitting on the shores of Eagle Lake in Wilmer, Minnesota, and this white rabbit, my uncle Eugene, came hopping in front of me and jumped down the rabbit hole, and I said, stubbed my toe on that rock and jumped right in. And I, like Alice, ate a little bit and got very big, and then ate a little bit of something else and had to get very humble. But I moved through Wonderland and came out a changed person.
Yeah. You said the campaign was like your university.
Yes.
It was like the whole, you're becoming more informed as you're doing this. And this groundswell of support, this meteoric rise that McCarthy has, especially with young people, and obviously with all the anti-war, anti-Vietnam movement. Peter, Paul, and Mary were involved with the campaign, and Peter wrote the campaign song for Gene called If You Love Your Country. I'm not going to sing it, but it starts with, if you love your country and the things for which it stands, vote for Gene McCarthy and bring peace to this our land. You can imagine if it was sung. And during the campaign, you were telling me that they were doing a rally in Portland, and they wanted a family member there that they could sort of just kind of make a connection. A McCarthy
exactly.
Connection.
They felt that they couldn't really use the performing stage as a political platform because in the audience there were McCarthy supporters, there were Bobby Kennedy supporters. I'm sure there was Hubert Humphrey supporters.
It was their audience.
And after all those years, there could have been, Nixon supporters as well, that it was a real cross-section. And they didn't feel that they could say, vote for Gene McCarthy. So when the people who were picking me up at the Portland airport that day, after having come in from campaigning with Tony Randall, some there are young people here who won't know who that is, but
Google Tony Randall.
So they came to fetch me, and they knew that Peter, Paul, and Mary were coming in. And what Peter, Paul, and Mary had done over the course of the summer was any town that they did a concert in where there was a McCarthy headquarters, they would go after the concert and sing to just try and elevate the troops and give them, because everybody was so exhausted and working so hard.
Yes, how sweet.
So this person came to pick me up and knew that Peter, Paul, and Mary were coming in, so I went to baggage, and there was, Peter and Paul and Mary, and Peter was organizing, getting all the luggage, and he said, if there's somebody from the family who's in town, please have them come to the concert. And I also asked them if they had ever met the senator, even though they had been campaigning for the whole summer.
I see. Right.
And Peter had written the campaign song. They had not.
Oh.
And as it turned out, Gene was in Portland that night. So I called and I said, after the concert and after his speech, would it be okay if we came to the hotel and spent some time? But before that, Peter had said, please have someone from the family come to the audience.
Yeah.
And before blowing in the wind, Peter came to the microphone and said, there is someone in the audience tonight with whom we share a common effort and a communal cause.
She's blowing in the wind.
Yeah. And she is the niece of Senator Eugene McCarthy. We would like to dedicate this song to her. So the lights all came on me, and I, waved and waved and waved. And the concert was over, and we went to the hotel. And as happens in campaigns at the end of long days, there's the time at the hotel when things quiet. And Gene would sort of sit with his scotch, and somebody said he always handled it like it was a chalice.
Yeah.
But with him and traveling on the road at the time was Robert Lowell, who was then the poet laureate of the United States. And so Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I, sitting there with Gene McCarthy and Robert Lowell, and Gene recited two of his anti-Vietnam poems.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Peter, Paul, and Mary sang The Great Mandela, which was the first time that Gene had ever heard it.
Wow.
I can't remember what Robert Lowell did, but it was just one of those sort of,
yes,
I mean, boom,
yeah,
boom,
right,
boom.
exactly.
And my life was
then
forever changed.
life changed because...
And Peter said,
yes,
come to dinner, which I did afterwards, and gave me his telephone number in New York, which I took. And he said, when you come to New York after the Oregon primary is over and California is finished, there will be a primary in New York, and give me a call. So that all happened. As we know, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated and the campaign suspended for a while. But then when it geared back up, I did come to New York. And I walked into the recording studio, and Peter and Paul were there mixing an album of theirs called Late Again. So I sat in the recording studio. And then afterwards, Peter happened to have a car for some reason. I don't know why. But anyhow, he said, would you like to go for a ride in the car? And at that time, Central Park was open, not just to walkers, but you could drive through it.
Okay, yeah.
So I got in the car, and we kind of drove through Central Park and pulled up in front of the Henry Hudson Hotel where I was staying. I put my head on his shoulder, and a year and a half later, we were married.
And that's how it happens.
And then a year and a half later, our daughter Bethany was born. And Peter always used to say she had the audacity to be born on Gene's birthday.
Yes,
March
can you believe
29th.
that?
And then a year and a half later, our dear son, Christopher Michael McCarthy Yarrow, who was born in Wilmer, Minnesota, was born.
So, so here's something that you may not know. So the wedding in 1969 in Wilmer.
St. Mary's Church.
Paul Stuckey writes a song for their wedding
as a wedding gift,
and it was a surprise. You haven't heard it. You haven't heard it at the rehearsal. So at
play a few chords when we were doing
so at
the
the
rehearsal.
ceremony is the first time you've heard it.
Yes,
right. And the song is the wedding song, or "There Is Love." We all know this song, right? Do we all know this song? He is now to be among you at the calling. See, there you go. Sure. Here you go. Here's Rachel. Yeah, and Rachel and Jaspar does it too, right? It caused him to remain. Right? You are gathered in his name. Here's the big finish. There is love. There is love. Yay. Okay, how many people know that song? Had it sung at their weddings or whatever, right? That's from her wedding. Right? That's from her wedding.
And Paul Stuckey felt that it had been, that he hadn't actually penned it. Noel had a conversion some time before, and he felt that Spirit really helped him write that song, and he was not going to sing it in concert.
He didn't want to record it.
But he also didn't want to sing it in concert. And Peter said, oh, Paul, please do. but he wouldn't take ownership for it. So he put it into a foundation.
Yeah, it's still
called
around.
Music to Life.
Yeah.
And that song is second only to God Bless America in sheet music sales.
Yeah.
And it has raised millions of dollars that have gone through this foundation to singers, songwriters who are doing good work.
Yes, isn't that great? Yes. Rachel, you said you sang that like a million times in the 90s. So many weddings. I played it on the flute for my sister's earlier wedding in the mid-70s. So, I mean, that's when it was like, wait, what? So I just thought I had to bring that up because I just thought the connection was really interesting.
And then I had a song written for me called Mary Beth, I Love You, which was Peter's gift to me. And we were married October 15th. We were married between the moratorium march of October 15th in New York and then the great march in Washington on November 15th.
You know, speaking of weddings and your daughter Bethany.
Right.
So I was reading in 1996, well, that's when she got married, isn't it? 1996. There's an article in the Times about her wedding, and she's interviewed. And she talks about marching for peace as soon as she could walk.
Right.
That public events marked her childhood. She tells the story, we're going to love this. She tells the story that when she was 6 years old, in the late 70s, she donated all of her allowance for women's equality at a rally supporting an equal rights amendment.
It was actually all of her bank account.
It was always all of her bank account,
not just her allowance.
Oh,
and
how much of a bank account did she have at 6?
It wasn't big, but it was,
I only had a piggy bank at 6. I don't know how that worked. Anyway, so I thought, thank you for raising new advocates for the ERA that young.
Thank you.
I thought that was terrific. Speaking of advocates, at one point, it must have been in 1978, you read about the Wilmer 8 bank strike.
Exactly.
And being from Wilmer, you're sort of very interested about this. And this is the story of 8 bank tellers and bookkeepers that formed a union and then eventually went on strike, protesting unequal pay and unequal opportunities for advancement at Citizens National Bank. They were being asked to train younger men to take their jobs.
They had college education, some of them, but they didn't really have banking
But they weren't
experience.
trained, yeah.
No, exactly.
And they were being paid more.
Right.
So the women were like, okay, that's enough. We're not going to do this. So you read about this, and you're like, I'm going to take a tape recorder, and I'm going to go to Wilmer and talk to him. And Peter says, why don't you take a 16-millimeter camera?
Right, exactly. I'm standing in the line at the Trenka's grocery store. Bethany and Christopher, at that age, she was Elizabeth then, not Bethany.
Oh, okay.
Were 6 and 7.5. And I looked down at the LA Times, and there on the front page is an article, Wilmer 8 Cause Celeb. And I'm sort of frozen in my tracks, and I take the article and I go home and read it. And I said, Peter, I would love to take a tape recorder and go and talk to these women. Now, none of the Wilmer 8 were women that I knew. As it is in these small towns, my parents were all actually friends of the other side of the establishment tracks.
Meaning the bank president.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That Leo Persh, who was the president of the bank, was in my mom and dad's supper club. He and his wife, Kathleen, and Tommy Torgeson, who was chairman of the board, had a clothing store where I worked when I was 14 years old.
So a big connection there. You're right.
So when I approached the women, well, first of all, I saw this article and I said, I can really relate to these women having taken a step into empowering myself in some way that changed my life. And I felt that I wanted to talk to them about that.
Right.
And I was going to take a tape recorder. And Peter said, well, we've got this little foundation. Why don't you take some money and go out and get matching funds and take a 16-millimeter camera and make a documentary? And I froze. I said, Peter, I can't take anybody's money. I don't know the difference between 16 and 35-millimeter film. And
You've never done that before.
Didn't know the difference.
Right.
And so Lee Grant was a dear, dear friend of mine in Malibu, and I went to her kitchen, and I was telling her about this thought. And she said, well, if you want to do this, I'll direct it. And I thought, okay, I've got a director. And then there was another woman whose name was Julie Thompson. And Julie had been very active in California politics and also had a film school degree.
Oh.
So she knew budgets and what a camera person did and what a sound person did. And so I once again stubbed my toe on this little stone and found it was a hoop of fire and jumped right through it. And Lee and Julie and I went to Minnesota. The women had been on strike for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for a decision from the National Labor Relations Board. And we felt we needed to get to them before the decision came down, or it would all be after the fact.
And they were still striking at this
They were
point.
still striking at
And
that
they were
time.
and
a year
it was
and a half.
really, really cold. Was it sort of January, February? It
Well,
was
they
really
first,
cold.
yes, it was. They first went out December
of 77.
77, and we got there 78,
Well,
79.
because the decision comes down in March of 79.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And so Julie and Lee and I, actually Peter and I called Ted Kennedy's office, and we said we
You
don't
know, like you do.
you know.
You just call Ted Kennedy's office because, like you do. And maybe Tony Randall's there. You never know. You never know who's going to be there.
And Paul Newman,
And
brought
of
the
course,
message.
Paul Newman, of course.
But anyway, we wanted to get a sense if there was a time frame of when the decision was coming down. And they couldn't give an exact time, but they were able to tell us that it was imminent. So Julie and Lee and I never left. And we stayed at my mom's house, my mom and dad's house, 1420 Grace Avenue, Wilmer, Minnesota. And we immediately put a crew together. Judy Irola was a feature film camera woman who had done Northern Lights. So we knew that, she might be able to handle winter, and brought our people to Wilmer. And we started filming. And I remember it was 16 degrees below zero. Now, Lee did not know this kind of cold. And she would go out to talk to the people on the street trying to get them to enter. She said my lips would freeze.
Yeah.
And across the street from the bank was some kind of grocery store. I can't remember the name of it.
What?
National grocery store. Thank you. And
you worked there?
So anyway, we would go and film the women, but it was so cold that the motor on the 16 millimeter camera would seize. So then we'd have to go to the National grocery store across the street to warm it up. But as it warmed up, it would fog up. The lens would fog, of course.
Right.
So we were constantly between trying to figure this out. We were there for 10 days, and we went back, and in Lee's garage in Malibu, we set up an editing room, and we made the Wilmer 8.
You can still find it out there. It's called the Wilmer 8. It is a dynamite documentary. It's so powerful. And these women and the stories, and there's a poker game where your mother is there.
Right.
And then people that are connected to the bank as well, the bank president side.
Friends. It was, my mother was part of a group of women who played poker for 20 years. Over the years. Yeah. And it was really their therapy. I mean, somebody would call and say, I found a bag of potatoes under the sink and I can make potato salad. Let's call a game. And, and so they would. And these ladies would play literally all night long.
Well, there's a great scene in the
But they worked.
in the movie.
I mean,
in the
some of them
documentary.
were working too.
Yes.
I mean, these
sure.
weren't just the sort of hoity-toity ladies that got their nails done and put their feet up, but these were all women who worked. And so at one point we turned the camera on them just to ask them about the situation at the bank, and I found it was a very interesting.
Well, they weren't. A lot of them did not agree at all.
No, they did not. But one
those
woman
women should be home and they should be doing their work and don't complain.
Well, they said women can be assertive without being aggressive.
Oh, right.
So that there was this.
I don't know if you can do that.
There was a real division in the community, and
your mother kind of starts to stand up for them, for the tellers.
She did, but it was also a case of really being able to look at sort of a societal microcosm of what these small communities are.
Yes, of course.
And these women, they were very much their own people. I mean, they were moms and they were wows. They really.
You're talking about the strikers.
The poker ladies.
Oh, the poker ladies.
And the women at the table, the striking women too. And it was, one of those situations where people just don't really fully understand and they don't listen. And in those kind of communities where the walls go down, I mean, we're living this way now.
No, I know, right. Exactly.
And so I was very honored in some way to have them be a part of the film juxtaposition to women who were really going through a different kind of struggle.
No, well, that's what's so lovely about the documentary is you hear that, not necessarily the other side, but the other perspective.
Right.
And then obviously a lot about what the women are going through.
And Leo Persh was the president of the bank, and one woman said, I'm on Leo's side because he's been my friend for 30 years. And years ago when her husband died, Leo was the person who came to support her and to support them.
So she felt she needed to be loyal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then in March of '79, the NLRB did come down with a decision. They said the bank was guilty of unfair labor practices, but those practices did not cause the strike.
Well,
And the strike was ruled as economic. As a result, no back pay, no guarantee of the women recovering their jobs.
Right. And so in the eyes of the community, they lost.
Right.
But in truth, they lost a battle but won a war.
I read a quick article about that around that time, and there was a woman that told one of the striking women later. Mm-hmm. She said that she ended up working at a different bank and said, actually, I think the situation did change. Mm-hmm. You did make change. There was positive movement there.
And it was all part of that time of National Organization of Working Women. And 925 became the union that was formed. And the movie 925 came out of all of that. So they were all a part of it. But these were 8, as I was, sort of inarticulate women. I mean, one of the women said, the most I ever did was to vote. And one said, the most I did was to go to a PTA meeting or something.
But that's good.
Yes,
that's
it was a great example. Yeah. And as they were suspicious to some degree of who I was, when I came to them to ask them if they would agree to do it, it was my convincing them of how extraordinary I thought the move was that they created in their lives, that sense of taking power that changed their lives, because I had experienced that in my own life.
That started this years-long working relationship with Lee Grant, and all sorts of wonderful topics. You dealt with transgender individuals, and you dealt with incarcerated women, and all these great causes and that kind of thing. And then there was an American Masters that you did
with Sidney Poitier,
Sidney
on
Poitier.
and about Sidney Poitier, called One
And
Bright
of course,
Light.
Lee Grant was in the Heat of the Night 30 years prior with Sidney Poitier. Yes. And then you moved to England for 3 years, and you work on a documentary exploring the life and work of Irish playwright Sean O'Casey with his daughter. Mm-hmm. So, all right, in 2004, you moved back to Minnesota and to take care of your parents. Mm-hmm. And you sort of the ideas generated that you're going to do a documentary about your uncle.
And I had actually filmed him before I'd started the project in 1996 with another crew, but it kind of didn't go anywhere. And so it was always in the back of my mind to do a profile on him.
Yeah, and he was frail at that time when he dies in 2005.
He died in 2005, exactly. And I was back here caring for Mom and Dad, and I decided I really wanted to have a place in St. Paul that was mine. So I was back and forth between Wilmer and St. Paul. And then I saw a documentary film here called Beyond the Divide. And it was made by Jan Selby, who's a Minnesota filmmaker. Okay. And I was so moved by the storytelling and the editing that I called Jan and asked who edited it. And I was introduced to Bill Kersey, who's here tonight, who is the director and editor. Yes. And when I first met with Bill, he was saying, I see this film being done in the key of Gene.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was the thing that really sparked it for me, because I too didn't necessarily want to make a documentary of people pontificating about who Gene McCarthy was, because there's a way in which he talks and a way in which he thinks, and there is something in it about the key of Gene. And so Bill and I started working together, and it's been a 15-year.
Well, it's just the documentary has so much. You learn so much about McCarthy and his sort of sudden rise, anti-war candidate, all that kind of thing. But there's so much heart. There's so much heart in the documentary as well, which really struck me when I was seeing it. I want to thank you for that.
And he was the main sponsor of ERA.
Oh,
and
Gene McCarthy was.
And brought along, I think, 30
I got to put him in the
Congress
song.
people who...
Jasper, we have to put him in the song.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. He was a lifelong poet.
Right.
And the title of the documentary, Alone in the Land of the Aardvarks, is from a poem of his.
Exactly.
And you also talk about Carol Connolly, who was the first poet laureate in St. Paul in 2006. 2006. She wrote a poem about Gene later in life.
She did. I am going to. And
you're going to read this.
Whenever I gather here in the Twin Cities these days, after we lost Carol, Carol was my touchstone. I always used to say everything in St. Paul for me runs to or through Carol Connolly. And I hold you so dearly in my heart, Carol Connolly, and you are here with us. It's called The Tall Man for Gene McCarthy. The tall man steps from a jet plane in from a far land where poets live alone in the land of the aardvarks.
Yes.
I embrace him, as I always do, but this time I hang on, bury my head in the shoulder of his dark blue suit. He says, we are spiraling down. I say, I know. Anything can happen now. The world seems off its axis. Even our grown children are not perfect. And our deep bruises, now decades old, are still dark blue. The sun must set, and the red moon rests on the edge of the world, slipping even lower before it disappears. The tall man grows frail. His age demands it. And I don't see the wisdom in any of this. If I had an old dog, I would call her now and scratch behind her ears.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, thank you for reading that. For reading that. We were talking about how much the brokered convention in '68, who was going to be at the top of the ticket, Johnson drops out, and how it connects with what's happening now.
Right.
There was this protest drive, but there was also, that correlates a little bit with today, is the sense of joy.
Sense of joy,
the
absolutely.
sense of joy. And so I think that is what's really interesting about this documentary that's soon to come out.
Thank you.
The last thing I want to say was, I saw an interview with you that someone did with you, and the last thing they asked you was, what would you say your legacy is? And you said in that interview, I tried. I tried. And I would say, you did, you have, and you still are. Wow, right? And
Thank
a wow
you.
factor.
Thank you.
Mary Beth Yarrow. Mary Beth
Thank
Yarrow,
you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much. And that's our show for tonight, everybody. That's our show. Thank you so
I'm
much
wowed
for coming.
by you. I'm
I'm
wowed
wowed by you too. I'm wowed by you too. So I want to just thank everybody for coming. Thank you again to Mary Beth Yarrow, please. Thank you. And thank you to all of our amazing musicians and singer-songwriters, Rachel Kurtz and Jaspar Lepak. And Tim, careful. And Tim Levy and Kennadi Hurst. She had to take off. And thank you to Silvia Pontaza and Zippy Laske, and to our live captioner Erica Cook, and our engineer Jared Johnson. And thanks so much to our assistants today, Beth Desatel and Terry Lynn Carlson and Bonnie Allen. Thank you for taking our pictures. And thank you to this wonderful staff at Crooners. I want to send a big thank you to our sponsors for tonight's show, Bruce McCaffrey and Nancy Scott and David O'Connor. Please visit our website, islandofdiscardedwomen.com. Catch up on all our future shows and everything else that's going on. Thank you, everybody. Good night. I'm Sue Scott. Good night.